and so I can't get case specific about it, about where the case is in youth court.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Lewis, you sit here. Okay. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Gerald Mumford, and I serve as the Hinds County Attorney. I have integral members of my staff here. To my left, Yemi Kings, Lewis, Clifford, and Raven Frazier. I appreciate you being here today. I've gathered this press conference here today to explain that under the statute, youth court has exclusive original jurisdiction in all proceedings concerning an abused or neglected child. The county prosecutor also has the authority to present any matter in front of a grand jury of their county. Based upon the allegations that have been made public in this matter, that have been recently publicized in the media about the sexual assault of a minor by a Jackson Police Department officer, my office will institute a proceeding in youth court for the minor, which will serve primarily three functions. Number one, we're going to make sure that this youth is safe. Number two, we're going to make sure that she gets the services that she needs and that she gets the support that the state can provide through CPS. And finally, we're going to investigate this matter to make sure that if there are any other adults who preyed upon this child or adults who receive images concerning this child and knowingly receive them and spread it on to others, that they're going to be prosecuted and that they're going to be brought to justice. One thing we must do is protect our seniors and protect our young people. This is a charge that we've been given by state statute, and we're going to fulfill that charge. Because youth court matters are confidential, our reports will not be publicized, our work will not be publicized, but the community should know that we take this matter very seriously. We're going to investigate it, we're going to make sure that we're transparent and that justice will prevail. We also want the community to know that if you come in contact with a young person that you suspect is abused or neglected, that you should call the CPS's hotline. That number is 1-800-222-8000. I don't think they require that you leave your name, but our community has to step up, and when you see a young person in places where grown folks are, make sure you call CPS, or you can call my office to make sure that this youth is protected. As you know, any person that's been accused of crime is presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. So that's my brief statement. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are you saying JPD should have called you immediately and let you handle the investigation?
I'm saying that the statute calls for there are mandatory officers on the statute that says you are supposed to contact youth court when a person has been accused, when a youth has been abused or neglected.
Did that happen? Notified of this?
I'm not sure whether it happened or not. I've not been notified of this. I learned of this on social media on Monday. Nurses, doctors, law enforcement officers, attorneys are obligated by statute to notify CPS when there's a credible allegation of abuse towards a young person.
In that same statute, it talks a little bit about a hearing before a circuit court. Can you explain that?
Well, I believe you're referring to another statute that talks about when police officers and teachers are accused of wrongdoing in the course and scope of their duties. Well, that situation, teachers and police officers are afforded a probable cause hearing. So an affidavit is filed and a probable cause hearing is heard before a circuit judge to determine whether arrest should be made of that officer and or teachers. And I guess the law is they don't want somebody going down to the city or to the county and filing a charge and that officer being taken off of his duties in handcuffs and or teacher taken out of her class in handcuffs. That person is entitled to a probable cause hearing under our statute, which is a different statute than our youth court jurisdiction.
Do you believe then that JPD did or did not notify your court and do what they were supposed to do?
Well, our investigation won't be what JPD did or didn't do. We know there's been talk of illegal activities going on for 6 months. Part of our investigation is to find out what, when, how. When did this start? Who all is in part of it? If there are other adults that are alleged to have been in contact with this minor in an inappropriate manner, then they will be brought to justice. That's our duty here as youth court prosecutors and county attorneys.
What if there are other adults who knew about it but had a duty to do so but did not notify y'all?
Well, there's a statute that calls for their prosecution. I believe that's a misdemeanor under our statute. There are mandatory people.
Which your office could prosecute, right?
Our office can prosecute that and will.
What's different about this case and other cases where you've got a child who's being, sexually abused by a grown-up? Is there a specific difference here? Is it because of the color of the law, or are we?
Well, we have heard of matters. Matters come into our court where young people have been abused, and we've prosecuted those matters in youth court. We've brought those young people in our courts to make sure that those young people were safe. There's a shelter hearing that's done 48 hours after a report is made to make sure that child is in a safe place. And so that's what we're doing here. We're only here because we need the community to know that we're on our jobs and that we're going to do our jobs according to the law.
With the officer taking his own life, unfortunately, on I-220, how much more complicated, or what changes in this case? What does that do now for you?
Well, it's our goal to find out if there are any other adults that are culpable in this matter. We are certainly sensitive to the loss of life. We're sensitive to this young person's family, but there may be other adults that receive images of this child. And we want to make sure that those folks are held accountable, because that's against the law to receive child pornography.
But obviously that isn't, I'm sorry, go ahead.
At this point, is there reason to believe that other adults did receive it, aside from people involved with the investigation?
Well, that's what the investigation will uncover. And we intend to issue subpoenas to the Jackson Police Department. We intend to see that file. We intend to download phones and to find out who had contact with this minor, who had contact with this officer, whether these images were sent to other people. Those are the matters we want to find out.
So, Attorney Mumford, I want to go back to the statute that you're referencing and that you're guided by, just in reference to your office being notified of what happened. So are you saying that the city or JPD, they have not notified you as of today, and that you got your information from social media?
JPD and other law enforcement officers, attorneys, nurses, and those people are supposed to contact DHS, Department of Human Services, CPS, immediately upon finding credible evidence of a child being abused. And we're supposed to work with CPS, DHS to get that information from them as the prosecuting authority.
And doesn't DHS have someone who can handle this 24/7?
There's a DHS CPS hotline that I mentioned, 1-800-222-8000, that's around the clock. You can report matters there confidentially.
So if the police hear about this on, say, the weekend, there's someone at DHS they can contact who can start taking action immediately, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
What does CPS stand for?
Child Protective Services.
Perfect, I want to make sure I understood that. Do you know, again, reiterate question, do you know whether they did or did not do that?
At this point, I have no evidence that a report has been received by CPS, and that's having called the state office shortly before we started today.
Have you been in contact with the family's attorney, Mrs. Ross? What has she had to say, or what have you told them about since getting involved in this?
Since getting involved in this, I contacted Lisa Ross, and I think I've been quoted in the paper. I sent her a message Monday that said, look, if you have an allegation that's being made toward this officer, the proper thing to do is to file an affidavit, and once an affidavit is filed, we will hold a probable cause hearing. Shortly thereafter, the alleged perpetrator committed suicide. Okay, so at this point, we're here trying to investigate any other adults that may have been involved in this. To that end, yesterday I sent Attorney Ross a letter asking her to provide this child's name, her parents' name, and their addresses so that we can bring this matter in youth court where I think it belongs.
But the attorney did go to the police first. So since she's fulfilling her duty to report, if she's at least going to law enforcement. Because not everybody's going to know exactly which department to go to.
You know, if she's trying to protect her client, I have no problem.
I mean, a good faith effort.
Melissa Ross did. I think what she did is proper. Now is the time to translate what her activities were with JPD into what we're trying to do in youth court, which is number one, to make sure this child is safe. Number two is to make sure this child receives the services that youth court can provide her. And number three, to make sure that if there are other adults that are perpetrating on children, that they be brought to justice.
Now, you mentioned a couple of times to make sure this child is safe. Is there reason to believe that she's not safe in her home, or is it possibly safe from other adults, or what are you guys looking at?
We just don't know. When you, we just don't know at this point. We need to make sure there have been allegations that she has, there's just been a lot of allegations, and I don't want to get into this child specifically because these matters are confidential. We need to make sure that she's safe. The statute makes it clear that youth court has original jurisdiction over matters such as these, and when we get into doing our processes, we need to make sure that this child and other children are safe.
And going back to DHS and GPS, and you're being notified, I just want to be clear. Were you or were you not contacted by either the city or JPS or JPD?
I've not been contacted by anyone. I've simply started yesterday trying to get this ball rolling because I think this matter belongs in youth court. Okay, and I don't see anybody else stepping up to the plate to make sure that the community understands that these matters are being taken seriously.
Have you spoken to Judge McDaniel yet?
I have.
What can you tell us, if anything?
I can't tell you anything.
Okay.
Thank you.